and spoke to his father last night and said, "Dad, I got nominated as the vice president of the History Student Council at UMBC." His dad said that's what I was in the 70s or 80s? The 80s.
Wow.
So we have our first legacy in the council.
When did he graduate?
I'm not sure.
Frighteningly, I might have been here. I came in '89.
Oh, really? I know that Dr. Yip was his advisor.
Well, he was here 40 years, so that's
Yes, that's not
right.
about
Yeah, that's
15 more than me.
Wow.
So we have Dr. Vaporis, Dr. Oakes with us this evening. So I will get off the floor because I don't know anything, and I will turn it over to Dr. Vaporis to have some remarks beforehand, and then we'll watch the movie. We can talk afterwards as well. So, without further ado.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. How many of you have seen the film already? Just one?
Jordan.
Good. That's good to hear. Well, this is a story about a relationship between two countries, Japan and the U.S., that some people call the most important bilateral relationship in the world, even today. And that relationship goes back, of course, to the mid-19th century when Commodore Perry and the Black Ships forced Japan to change its course in terms of the way it related to the outside world. So that was the first important meeting between the two countries, and the occupation is the second. And both changed the course of both countries' histories, really. As the Japanese producer of this film, it was co-produced Japan and the U.S., said, one of the reasons why she wanted to make this film, which is based on a novel, was that she said that the United States has occupied a number of different countries, and she lists them, Iraq, Afghanistan, and so forth. We can no longer say that the occupation of Japan was the longest American occupation. It's been eclipsed, but she said it's the only one that America got right. And so she thought it was worthy of study. So I'll just leave you with that thought here. But even at 7 years, that's a long time to be occupying in other countries. Very ambitious occupation, attempt to change a society, to redirect it from a course that Americans determined was incorrect. And the emperor was the key to it, so it's understandable that the film focuses on that. Please remember that 6 weeks before the end of the war, Gallup poll was taken, and 60% of Americans said they wanted Hirohito dead. After the war, most of the Allied, according to opinion polls in the Allied countries outside of the U.S., they still wanted him dead. So that's an important point to remember. The fact that this film was co-produced between Japan and the U.S. Is really a remarkable thing. It breaks a kind of a long-standing taboo in Japan. During the war, Time magazine put Emperor Hirohito's photo on the cover, and that resulted in a official state protest. The Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa said that if he made a film that any way dealt with the emperor, he would probably be killed, assassinated. The emperor has been taboo even since his death in '89. That's diminished somewhat, but this film is remarkable in dealing with the subject of the emperor at all. And having it, I just wondered about the actor who played the emperor, if he's had any difficulties, any threats on his life. I haven't read anything to that effect. Or not. The last thing I'll leave you with is, and I hope some of you will take my Japan since 1800 course, where we deal with this period in more detail. But MacArthur was, the title of the film is not The Emperor. You maybe noticed that. It's Emperor, although the Japanese title is different. And there's some question whether that ambiguity was intentional rather. Whether they're talking about the emperor or they're talking about MacArthur. In any event, who thought he was an emperor? That's another story.
Can I ask what was the title in Japanese?
She said no. She said no. The Emperor at the End of the War.
Oh, okay.
Or the Emperor of the End of the War. The Japanese is ambiguous.
Right.
But lots of Japanese, common everyday Japanese wrote see, I'm slipping here. Emperor MacArthur wrote MacArthur letters at the end of the war, giving him advice. Some of them telling him that the emperor should be tried. Others that offering their lives in place of the emperor. Please don't bring up the issue of war responsibility. I'll gladly lay my life down for him. Lots of those. Others saying, please stay in Japan and rule us. We need somebody like you. All kinds of different opinions and interesting letters that were collected. Thousands of them, over 3,000 letters he received before he left to go to Korea. So with that, I'll turn over to Dr. Oates.
Yeah, I don't have too many things I want to say beforehand. Most of what I have to contribute will be after, but I will say that, and Jordan is in my History 385 class, which is 1945 to the present, and we spent about 4 weeks doing the occupation. And with John Dower's book that we use quite a lot, I made my students see this in that class, and I had them write a 4 to 5 page analytical paper on it. And what the goal of that paper was to assess the film as a historical document, and what they would use, of course, is the Dower, the lectures to bounce it off of. For you guys, I think the task should be different, perhaps. I'll say right out front, there's a lot of inconsistencies and add-ons and strangeness about the film. So what I hope that tonight, what you can look at and try to figure out, maybe not so much, oh, that seems wrong, or that seems wrong, how can it be useful to students of this time period, especially students who may not know a lot? And at the end, I can elaborate a little bit more on that. The other thing I'd like to say is one of the questions I ask my students is, why do they think this came out now? In 2013, it seems like a somewhat random film to just, bring out with these major actors. So I'll let you think about that as well, and we can talk about that at the end. The two major characters, of course, as Dr. Vaporis mentioned, Tommy Lee Jones as Douglas MacArthur. The other is Matthew Fox, who you may know from any Lost fans in the room. Okay. Loved him in Lost. So he is the second, or perhaps first major character of Bonner Fellers, who is a real historical figure who was considered MacArthur's, one of his right-hand Japan experts, though it is said the occupation didn't really like MacArthur in particular, having any kind of experts sort of telling him what to do. Fellers, he did rely on quite a lot, and Fellers himself had studied a lot about Japanese culture. He did use one of his sources. How do you pronounce Hearn's first name? Lafcadio. So, he says one of his major sources was Lafcadio Hearn, who was one of the first Westerners to really write a lot about Japan and its culture. So I think he, at the time, was the best we had, perhaps, in MacArthur's available grouping. So he is quite an important figure, a little different in real life from what Matthew Fox portrays, but we can talk about that at the end. So definitely focus on him as well and what his contribution to the question of the Emperor's Guild. So that's the whole point of the film, I think. It kind of manufactures a 10-day journey that is given to Bonner Fellers. It says you have 10 days to explore whether or not Hirohito is guilty. That part is not accurate in terms of this journey. That was pretty much decided prior. But see what you can get out of it anyway. The whole notion of who he talks to, what he learns, and we can flesh that out some more at the end. Yeah?
We just had 10 days is a gross misrepresentation, but the process was really truncated because in the beginning of 1946, so the occupation began at end of October.
Right.
January 1, 1946, the International Commission was going to help, in principle, start regulating the occupation, which meant that other powers who wanted to see Hirohito gone were going to have a lot more input. So that really put some fire under MacArthur and his men to do something about the emperor before someone else did something about it.
Do you have any questions, or should we just kind of go for it?
Have any questions?
It's an amazing